They'll pull at your attention from every angle: messages, noise, opinions, expectations. The world is loud, and the louder it gets, the easier it is to forget why you started. That's how it works. Distraction doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like comfort. Like scrolling instead of creating. Like talking instead of doing. Like reacting to them instead of listening to yourself. But there's a moment, quiet and personal, where you decide that your energy is too valuable to be scattered. That your time, your focus, your mind, they're not for rent. They're yours. And in that moment, you begin to silence the world around you. Not out of arrogance, not out of isolation, but out of clarity. Because if you keep answering to everything, you lose the ability to answer to anything. You've got goals, dreams, things buried in your chest that won't leave you alone. But they won't come to life in a cloud of noise. They need stillness. They need attention. And they need you to be ruthless with your boundaries. That means saying no more often than yes. That means turning down invitations that cost your peace. That means choosing solitude when everyone else is performing for attention. You don't need to prove anything to anybody. The people who doubt you, let them. The people who laugh, let them. You owe them nothing, not your updates, not your explanations, not even your time. What you do owe is your focus. Your full attention to the work, to the process, to the progress no one else sees. It's easy to be distracted when you're unsure of your direction. But once you get clear, once you lock in on what really matters, distraction becomes a choice. And most people won't understand that choice. They won't get why you're so quiet now. Why you're not showing up to every event. Why you're not oversharing, not seeking applause, not asking for permission. And that's okay. They're not supposed to understand. It's not their path, it's yours. See, the strongest people aren't the loudest. They're the ones who walk into the room with a quiet fire. The ones who've trained their focus so deeply that the outside world no longer holds their strings. They're not pulled by trends. They're not pressed by time. They move on their own terms, in their own lane. And eventually, they arrive somewhere that looks like success to everyone else, but to them, it's just the next step. Silence your distractions, not just the ones outside, but the ones in your head too. That inner voice that tells you you're not ready. Quiet it with action. That fear of falling behind. Drown it in discipline. Every moment you spend comparing yourself is a moment you've stolen from your own growth. And you can't afford that. Not if you're serious. Not if you're really here to build something that lasts. They'll talk either way. If you fail, they'll talk. If you win, they'll talk louder. So let them. Let their noise become background static while you stay tuned into your mission. Let their doubt become fuel. Let their confusion become your edge. Because while they're focused on you, you're focused on becoming unrecognizable. And when that transformation comes, when the results finally speak, there won't be anything left to say. No words, no arguments, no noise. Just a silence filled with presence. The kind of silence that turns heads. The kind that reminds everyone that while they were watching, you were working. There's a reason the most powerful growth happens behind closed doors. It's not broadcast. It's not branded. It's not wrapped in highlight reels or trending filters. Real transformation is raw, quiet, and deeply personal. It happens when nobody's clapping. When nobody's watching. When it's just you, your flaws, your progress, and the decision to keep going. We live in a world addicted to display. Everyone wants to be seen winning. They want applause in real time. They want validation before results. But that kind of growth doesn't last. Because it's built for attention, not for impact. And if you're chasing attention, you'll burn out before you break through. But when you build in private, when you stop announcing and start applying, you create something that can't be shaken. You gain power in silence. Because every moment you spend working in the dark adds weight to your presence when the light finally hits you. The real ones know, it's the unseen hours that count. The early mornings. The late nights. The quiet sacrifices that no one will ever fully understand. There's something sacred about privacy in a noisy world. While others are chasing likes, you're chasing legacy. While they're sharing every step, you're stacking every win. Quietly. Intentionally. Patiently. That's not hiding. That's strategy. That's discipline. That's the difference between noise and movement. You don't need to prove your process to anyone. You don't need permission to stay in your zone. And you certainly don't need to convince people that you're on your way. Let them wonder. Let them assume nothing's happening. Let them sleep on you. Because here's the truth. The less they expect, the harder they're hit when you arrive. Your results are coming. But they don't need a preview. You're not a movie trailer. You're a storm building strength over time, silent, steady, and sure. And when it hits without warning. That's why you must protect your energy. Not everything is meant to be shared. Not every idea should be exposed before it's ready. Let it grow first. Let it mature. Some things lose power when revealed too early. Some dreams need time in the shadows before they can stand in the sun. And when the results finally come, when the change becomes undeniable, let that be your statement. Not the updates, not the promises, not the talk. Just results. Unshakable, irreversible results. That's how you speak without saying a word. You'll notice something else too. When you build in silence, you also lose the noise in your own head. You stop thinking about how things look and focus on how things are. You stop comparing timelines. You stop measuring yourself against people who aren't even running the same race. And suddenly, your path becomes clearer. Your voice becomes stronger. You stop chasing distractions because you're too busy chasing excellence. That's where the shock comes from. It's not that you're louder. It's that you're different. You walk different. You carry yourself with the kind of quiet confidence that only comes from doing the work nobody else wanted to do. The behind the scenes work. The invisible progress. The process that made you stronger, sharper, and more grounded. You don't need to explain that. You don't need to post that. Just live it. And let your life speak. Because at the end of the day, the people who shock the world aren't the ones who shouted the loudest. They're the ones who stayed quiet long enough to become undeniable. Motivation is a spark. It shows up fast, burns bright, and disappears just as quickly. It's the feeling you get after hearing something powerful, watching someone win, or imagining the life you want. But feelings fade. And if you rely on them to carry you, you'll stop every time they do. That's why consistency is greater than motivation. See, consistency isn't loud. It doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't wait for the perfect time, or for the excitement to return. Consistency is showing up when it's hard. When it's boring. When no one's watching and nothing seems to be changing. Because deep down, you know something is changing, you just can't see it yet. That's where most people give up. They confuse slow progress with failure. They chase intensity instead of habits. But intensity doesn't build legacy, consistency does. Motivation might get you started, but consistency keeps the promise you made to yourself. When you're focused on yourself, really focused, you stop needing emotional permission to move. You show up anyway. You train anyway. You study anyway. Not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. And that's self-trust. That's the real power. That's how you start to separate from the crowd. It's easy to be great for a day. Easy to grind when the energy is high and everything feels good. But what about day 20? What about month 6? What about when the results are quiet, the effort feels invisible, and the finish line is nowhere in sight? That's when discipline takes over. Because discipline doesn't care if you're in the mood. It doesn't need a crowd. It doesn't need recognition. It just needs a decision, a simple, quiet commitment to keep showing up. And over time, that commitment compounds. One quiet day after another. One small action layered on top of the last. Until suddenly, you've built something no one can ignore. That's what shocks them. Not that you started, but that you never stopped. That while they were waiting for the right mood, you were mastering the right moves. That while they were chasing hype, you were building habits. Every single day. With or without motivation. It's not glamorous. Most of the journey won't be. But it's real. And that real, steady effort will always outperform bursts of inspiration that burn out before they bring results. The winners. They're not the most hyped. They're the most consistent. You don't need to sprint. You just need to keep walking. That's it. Day by day. Brick by brick. Keep the promises you make to yourself, even when no one's checking. That's how confidence is built, from self-respect, not self-hype. And sure, there will be days when everything feels off. When the doubt creeps in, when the old habits try to return. But that's part of the process. You don't need perfection. You just need persistence. The magic isn't in doing it once, it's in doing it again. And again. And again. And every time you do, you become a little stronger. A little clearer. A little more dangerous to the version of you that used to quit. Let others chase the fire of motivation. You build the fire yourself. One spark, one strike, one disciplined action at a time. Until the fire no longer depends on how you feel. It burns because you've built it that way. You focus on the process. You protect your routine. You move quietly, steadily, without needing an audience. And one day, they'll look up and wonder how you did it. But you'll already know. There comes a point when motivation fades and inspiration quiets down. When no one's cheering, the music stops, and it's just you, your choices, and the version of yourself you're becoming. That's when discipline steps in, not as a punishment, but as a blueprint. A structure. A silent partner that doesn't rely on emotion, praise, or the perfect moment. Just truth and action. Discipline isn't about being hard on yourself. It's about being honest with yourself. It's about doing what needs to be done even when it's the last thing you feel like doing. Because growth doesn't come from what's convenient. It comes from what's consistent. And consistency is born from discipline. You don't become who you're meant to be by accident. You shape that person. Deliberately. Slowly. Repetitively. And it's not a loud process. In fact, it's usually invisible to the outside world. People only see the transformation. They don't see the repetition, the setbacks, the early mornings, the quiet sacrifices. But that's where the change happens, in those quiet moments you show up when no one's watching. Most people wait until they feel like changing. They wait for the perfect timing, the right mindset, the ideal circumstances. But you can't afford to wait for permission from your emotions. Because if you do, you'll move only when things are easy, and that's not where greatness lives. Greatness lives in the repetition. In choosing what's right over what's easy. In choosing movement over excuses. And with every disciplined choice, you're shaping the way you see yourself. Every time you get up when it would be easier to sleep in, every time you practice when no one's clapping, every time you keep a promise to yourself, that's identity work. You're becoming someone you can count on. Someone you respect. And that's the key. When you respect yourself, everything changes. Your boundaries get stronger. Your focus sharpens. Your need for validation weakens. Because now, you're not doing it to impress anyone. You're doing it because it's who you are. And who you are is built, not declared. It's easy to set goals. It's harder to build systems. But systems are what carry you when willpower runs out. Discipline gives you a structure so solid that even on the worst days, you don't fall apart, you fall back into routine. And that's the difference between quitting and recalibrating. There will be days when your mind says stop. When your body feels heavy. When the results seem distant. That's okay. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up. Even if it's a small step. Even if it's not your best. Discipline teaches you that progress doesn't always look exciting. Sometimes it looks like showing up tired. Showing up uncertain. But showing up anyway. And the world, it won't notice at first. It won't applaud your 5 a.m. alarms or your late night effort. But one day, it will notice the results. The sharpness in your mindset. The control in your habits. The edge in your presence. That's what shocks them. Not just that you changed, but that you became unshakable. You don't get there by chance. You get there because you stopped negotiating with yourself. You stopped waiting to feel ready. You started acting like the person you wanted to become, even before you saw the evidence. And with every disciplined action, that version of you became more real. That's how you win. Not once, but repeatedly. Quietly. Powerfully. On your own terms. While everyone else is chasing quick highs, you're building something that can't be taken away. Something grounded. Something earned. Let them wonder how you did it. Let them guess. But you'll know. You didn't just set goals, you became the kind of person who follows through. It's natural to want to be seen. To be acknowledged. To feel like the effort you're putting in is being noticed. But the truth is, if you keep looking for approval, you'll keep drifting from your purpose. Because every time you let someone else's opinion shape your direction, you give them control of your outcome. Focus on progress, not approval. You weren't made to impress the world, you were made to evolve. And evolution doesn't ask for applause. It demands patience, grit, and the courage to keep moving even when no one's watching. Especially when no one's watching. Approval is loud. Progress is quiet. One is based on how others feel about you, the other is built on how far you've come from who you used to be. And that's the only comparison that really matters, you versus you. When you focus on approval, your moves become performative. You start choosing what looks good over what is good for you. You start chasing applause instead of purpose. But applause is temporary. It fades. It shifts. It can be given one moment and taken the next. You can't build anything real on that. Progress, though, it builds quietly. It compounds. One choice at a time. One uncomfortable step after another. And the beautiful thing is, progress doesn't need permission. It doesn't ask, do you like this? It just keeps going, growing, moving forward. You want to shock people. Don't seek their approval, outgrow it. Let them be confused. Let them wonder why you're not trying to impress them anymore. Let your elevation speak for itself. That's the mindset that frees you. The moment you stop needing people to validate your every step, you become unstoppable. Because now you're not checking for reactions. You're checking your own standards. You're not driven by opinions, you're driven by outcomes. It won't be easy. Approval is addictive. It feels good to be liked, to be seen, to be praised. But the most powerful version of you doesn't need it. That version of you is grounded in purpose. That version of you wakes up each day asking, did I get better? Not, did they notice? And the people who chase approval, they burn out. They shift too often. They mold themselves for acceptance and lose their edge in the process. But you're not molding anymore. You're sharpening. You're refining. You're becoming more you with each step. That's how real change happens, not by being liked, but by being honest with yourself. You're going to have to walk alone sometimes. You're going to be misunderstood, overlooked, even doubted. But that's all part of it. That's the price of progress. And the more you accept that, the lighter you become. Because now you don't carry the weight of needing to please everyone. You carry only what serves your growth. Remember, the results will come. The recognition might come too, but by the time it does, you won't be depending on it. You'll already know your worth. You'll already know what it took. You won't need their approval because you'll have something better, your own respect. And that's the kind of power that can't be shaken. So keep moving. Quietly. Relentlessly. Measure your progress by your own standards. Not likes. Not followers. Not validation. Because when you focus on getting better instead of being seen, you become the kind of person no one can ignore. Let them chase attention. Let them stay addicted to applause. You've got bigger work to do. There's power in quiet execution. In doing the work without constantly announcing it. In making moves without needing to broadcast every step. Because the truth is, the louder you are about what you plan to do, the less energy you often have left to actually do it. And the people who truly rise, they're not the ones talking about what's coming, they're the ones delivering when it arrives. Speak less, deliver more. In a world full of noise, silence stands out. Not because it's empty, but because it's focused. While others are busy explaining, defending, promising, you're busy building. You don't need to convince anyone of your potential when your results make the statement for you. Every time you choose to act instead of talk, you move ahead of the crowd. Because most people are stuck in a cycle of talking themselves into action. But action doesn't need convincing. It needs commitment. It needs clarity. It needs that quiet moment where you decide, I don't need to be heard right now, I need to move. There's a certain confidence that comes from doing the work behind the scenes. From stacking your wins without an audience. From building your character when no one's watching. That kind of confidence can't be faked. It's not loud. It's not boastful. But it's undeniable. It shows up in how you walk, how you speak, how you carry yourself, even when you say nothing at all. That's what shocks people. Not that you started something, but that you finished it. That you stayed consistent when the excitement wore off. That you delivered when it mattered. And you did it without needing to be reminded, praised, or pushed. That's rare. And rare gets noticed. You don't have to shrink yourself, but you also don't have to shout. You don't have to defend your goals, explain your moves, or respond to every doubt. Let people wonder. Let them talk. Let them predict. Just make sure that while they're watching, you're working. Make sure that while they're posting, you're progressing. Because the world doesn't reward talk. It rewards proof. And your proof will come, not from what you say you're going to do, but from what you actually deliver. Whether it's physical transformation, financial growth, spiritual alignment, or personal development, whatever you're building, let it reveal itself through action. And here's the truth. Silence protects your momentum. It keeps you from getting caught in the feedback loop of constant reassurance. It keeps you grounded in the work. Because when you talk too much about your next move, you start to feel like you've already made it, and that can kill your drive before it even begins. It's not about being secretive. It's about being intentional. You're not hiding, you're prioritizing. You're choosing your growth over their opinion. You're choosing substance over spectacle. That's not weakness. That's maturity. So no, you don't need to keep telling people what's next. You don't need to update the world on every step of your process. Just stay locked in. Stay focused. Stay true to the quiet, daily discipline that builds greatness. And when it's time to show up heavy. Show up polished. Show up with results so clear they don't require explanation. That's the kind of presence that speaks for itself. That's the kind of energy that can't be denied, no matter how little you say. The world will take notice eventually, but by the time they do, you'll already be 10 steps ahead. And you won't be waiting for their applause. You'll be too busy setting new standards, raising the bar, and delivering at a level they didn't see coming. Let your silence become your strength. Let your delivery become your proof. At the end of the day, this journey is yours. Not theirs. Not the crowds. Not the critics. It belongs to you, the late nights, the early mornings, the quiet battles, the small wins no one sees. And every step you take focusing on yourself, every moment you choose growth over noise, silence over attention, discipline over comfort, you're becoming the version of you that nobody saw coming. So keep going. Keep building in silence. Keep choosing consistency when it's hard. Let your evolution speak louder than your words ever could. The world will catch up in time, but by then, you won't need their approval. You'll already know who you are. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your willingness to step into something deeper. The road ahead is yours to walk, but you won't be walking it empty-handed. You're leaving here with clarity, focus, and the quiet fire to shock them all, just by becoming exactly who you were meant to be. Good luck on your journey. And more importantly, trust yourself every step of the way. Thank you.